Welcome to the newest episode of the Traits Podcast. Again, the focus of these podcasts is how to build higher performing organizations. That's something that we are passionate about at Concord and in working with traits profiles with different businesses. Stephen Smith, I'm about to introduce you to, he's been running business for over 4 decades. And that is significant because there are a lot of people out there that have a lot of business advice, a lot of people who talk about leadership, who talk about management, that don't have a lot of experience or that have a theoretical knowledge. We see this all the time in different countries where people say, well, I'm an economist and I understand everything about the economy, and they're wrong like 80% of the time because they don't have any real world experience. Stephen is the exact opposite of that. He understands how to run business. He's got 1,400 employees, 200 of which are administrative and managers. And you will quickly hear that people are extremely important to Stephen. Everything that he says, just get a feel as he's talking about how much he cares about people and how much he wants to have an effect on other people's lives, a positive effect on other people's lives. We'll be discussing a bunch of things. I just wanted to run through a couple of them with you. So we're going to be talking about leading from the front, taking care of people with hidden agendas. We're going to talk about scaling and scaling a management team, as well as vulnerability and how this helps to build culture. Overall, what the focus of today is leadership. How do we lead in better ways? Now, again, as you'll hear from Stephen, everyone does have their own style, and we need to learn who we are. Having said that, there is some absolute gold coming from Stephen here today. Enjoy the podcast. I am with Stephen Smith from Strike Group. This is going to be a fun interview. I've been looking forward to this, Stephen. It's something that leadership is something that everyone and their dog seems to be an expert on and talk about endlessly, when we really know it's the people that are doing it and doing a really good job of it who are the actual experts. That is you for sure. In our conversation before this, we talked about a couple of concepts, that I'm hoping to get into. So what I'm going to start with is maybe introduce yourself. Who are you? What is your background? I know you've been with Strike for a while, but what brought you to Strike? I know that you've got an education in business as well.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And I'll just start with where I came from. I moved out here from Prince Edward Island back in 1982, so I'm in my 43rd year here in Western Canada. And I came out after university. I had a business degree from the University of Prince Edward Island, and my wife just graduated from nursing school. So we both came out west to seek our fortune, I guess you might call it. Everybody was going west, as young people, and working out here. Some spent careers here, some spent a few years. Our intent was to spend 3 years here and then go back east and help with their family businesses. So at any rate, that was over 42 years ago now. And we started here in Alberta with a company called Flint, which is still around today. It's an old American-owned, U.S.-owned company that I started with, and I was I became an accountant after I came to Alberta, and I was the CFO and COO, and then ultimately the president of Flint. And then I had a 20-year career with Flint. I left Flint when the family sold the business, and it went public eventually, and I stayed till it went public, and then left and bought a business in Russia, one of the Flint family businesses in Russia, back in 2002. So a couple of years after that, we started Strike in 2004 as a subsidiary of the Russian business. My partner and I, Ron Shannon, owned Flint Eurasia and then Strike. So we're 20 years old today, and that's how I got to be at Strike and a co-founder of Strike and CEO from the first day we started 20 years ago. And now I office in Calgary. Our headquarters is in Calgary, and I can tell you a little bit about Strike if you'd like me to move into that, Mark.
Yes, please. I want to know what more. I mean, I know it's in industrial construction, energy and industrial construction, but tell me more about what you do and how the company formed and has found success.
Yeah, well, we started the business, as I noted, in 2004. Now, the intent was at that time there was a number of ex-Flint folks that we and had the ambition to start a Canadian-owned, employee-owned company, and that's how we got Strike hatched. Is the interest from management and ourselves to have us build a company here in Canada. We had built it for the Flint family and then wanted to do the same thing with Strike. We started out as really an upstream oil and gas construction company, tying wells in and following the drill bit, so to speak, and building and setting facilities in the upstream sector of the energy industry. We later moved as the company grew. We had a 5-year plan to be 5 business units and 50 million in revenue, and we hit that in 2 years. So we accelerated our growth strategy with Strike and moved into the midstream sector of the energy industry, which is building pipeline and processing facilities, then into the downstream and petrochemical. And eventually we've diversified this business outside of the energy streams in agriculture, mining, lumber, and utilities and places like that. So 25% of our revenue now comes from outside of traditional energy streams. We're also looking at new energy markets that we can grow into and service with our business. And today we're 25 business units across Western Canada, operating in a half a dozen different industries, I would call it, or industry sectors, and then probably 7 or 8 different services we offer here at Strike. And that's how we're structured today. We're heavy with management ownership. We think that's one of the key success factors for our business is to have our management own a piece of the business. So that's where Strike is today, and we feel a great future in front of us. I think we can focus this business on Western Canada and grow it into other provinces a little deeper, particularly BC and maybe points east. But we don't feel the need to go international or go to the U.S. like we've had pull to go there. And we just said, listen, Western Canada is a great place for our business. We offer construction services, and there's many places we can build and grow the business right here.
Excellent. Now, how many employees does Strike have currently?
Currently, we run about 1,400 employees across our business units in Western Canada. There's probably close to 200 in administration and management, and the rest are field type employees that are executing the work and managing and supervising the work that we do.
Perfect. And the reason I'm asking that is just, again, to give context for our listeners that when we talk about leadership, again, there are people like me, talking heads, who talk about leadership endlessly and have our own theories. But to go to somebody who has built 2 businesses, one to go public, one from scratch, and has a ton of success in that, tons of employees, a lot of experience over 40 years of managing people, that's a completely different take on this. Now, one thing you said to me in our previous conversation, Stephen, was that you talk about leadership styles. And you said you can lead from the front and the back. That was a very specific phrase you used. Tell me more about what you mean by that. How do you lead from the front and the back?
Well, what I really meant by that is you can lead from the front or the back. At times you can adjust your style, but typically a leader has a certain style. And mine is a lead from the front type of leader. So I'm going to be out front working with our leadership team and leading sharing the vision, sharing the strategy, and working the plan with our management. Now, leading from the back is a little bit different, and there's no right or wrong way to lead. And leading from the back would allow you to be more at the back of the room, so to speak, and have others at the front of the room sharing the plan, delivering the plan, and doing that type of work around leadership. And there's no right or wrong way, but that's just the different styles that I've noted and we've noted over the years. And I learned a little bit about that down in the U.S. at a leadership offsite that I went to many years ago, and I found it rather intriguing, to understand how to be effective, as a front of the room type leader, and that's my style. So you need to focus on on that. You need to focus on your strength, and you need to first of all understand your strengths and how you lead.
How did you begin to understand your strengths, Stephen?
Well, I certainly knew, I knew I was a people type person. And I'm not going to be your technical expert or anything like that, but I certainly know how to work with people. And I knew that from the start. So I had to surround myself with good people in all aspects of the business and all disciplines of the business. And you need to know a little bit about everything, but you don't have to be the expert on everything. So you have those people around you, and you make sure you hire those people. So that's key. I recognize that fairly early. And back in when I was with Flint, I was the CFO, and the Flint family asked me if I'd like to be the president in 7 years, and in order to do that, you had to go to the field, and I was an accountant going to the field, so I had to rely on people. I wasn't coming out there with the know-how how to build things and do things that way. I had to organize and manage the people and build relationships with the customers. So I knew that was the strength, and I had to play to that strength. And I guess further to that, this about 20 years ago now, I went down to the US to a leadership little conference and offsite. It was led by a former GE executive who spent a lot of time in Crotonville, which is the leadership school for General Electric under Jack Welch. And he was I guess I wouldn't call him a disciple of that method, but he had a lot of leadership knowledge. And so I went to hear him and work with him. There was about 12 of us at that. And you built your own leadership agenda. You were working on your own style, understanding your own style, understand what got you here, and what makes you a good leader. And so I built my, I guess you call it, we call it your own leadership agenda. And mine is entrepreneurial. I am entrepreneurial. I'm very collaborative and open. So I use those. I'm team focused, and so that's how I built my leadership agenda around those things that made me successful. And being transparent, I'm fairly open with that. I found that there was no secrets to business strategy or the business plan or anything else. If any employee or stakeholder in the business wanted to know what we're building and how we're going to build it or where we want to go, we'd share that. Like there's no big secret or anything like that. So the other thing that I would add around what made me a better leader 20 years ago, as I worked with Strike and built Strike, is what that offsite taught me was reach, preach, and teach. If you want to boil down leadership into its simplest form, just don't forget the terms reach, preach, and teach. Now, reach is making sure you're available and visible to your people and to those that you work with. So that's the reach part. You need to be a teacher or a mentor or a coach, and that's got to be a big part of your leadership agenda. And so I built that into mine. So you need to be helping others to have a better life or have a better career, so to speak. And then the preaching part of it is share the plan, share the vision. Go out and talk to people and have town halls or employee meetings, and just make yourself available and telling the story. And so that reach, teach, and preach went a long way. I've never forgotten it, and I always try and pull myself back to make sure I'm practicing those things. And be authentic too. I mean, you have to be authentic. I'm just rattling off things here that I think were important to me and that I discovered over the years. Is just be authentic. You're never always going to be perfect in what you do, and be vulnerable out there. So you're going to make mistakes and just pick up and one foot after the other, and away you go again. Play to your strengths.
Yeah, you've dropped a few nuggets on us here, so I'm gonna delve into these a little bit. And just to summarize, I asked where you learned your strengths. It sounds like it was a combination of working again in the field, growing up in a company, seeing where your strengths are naturally, having other people, the previous ownership of Flint, speak into your life a little bit and say, hey, this is what we see in you, going out to the field, seeing where you're strong, and then, like you say, going out to leadership training courses and learning a little bit more of, hey, this is where I am strong. Would that be accurate?
That is accurate. And just never forget, you can always learn no matter how old you are. You got to be trying to learn and get better at anything you're working at.
Yeah, I've heard some people say we're growing or dying, right? And I
Well, that's right.
appreciate that.
If you're not growing, you are dying, and you'll get left behind.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump into a few of the things you mentioned. You talked about reaching, preaching, teaching. And I think you said with reaching, you want to be available. With teaching, you want to be mentoring others. And with preaching, you want to share the vision with others. And this is
Right.
all very much coming from, as you previously mentioned, leading from the front. So in leading from the front, maybe I'll take a step back and ask, what are the major advantages as well as the disadvantages from with from the front leaders?
I think you can, from the front, you can build trust with your people easier and faster when you're leading from the front. You're speaking, you're delivering. They get to know you quicker. It's another thing. They get to understand where you're coming from, what you as a leader are all about, and you don't have others or disciples doing that for you. Um, Now, those are some of the things, and I like sharing and getting feedback from employees. It gives them a chance to directly interact with me on their thoughts and what they think we should be doing as a company and those types of things. So you can get feedback, I think, easier. Now, that's how I look at my role in leading from the front. I like people to be comfortable and trust the leadership team. So if you don't have trust, you probably don't have an effective leadership team or an effective leadership agenda.
Okay, excellent. And let's go back now to those three terms that you mentioned: reach, preach, teach. With reaching, I mean, I go into any business and every business is going to say, oh yeah, we need to be available to others. We need to have open lines of communication. Like those are words that everyone uses. What separates just talking about it versus actually doing it? What have you learned, tips, tricks that you've learned along the way?
Number one, I think, everybody talks about an open door policy. We have an open door policy. You really have to have an open door policy. Anybody can walk into my office and feel comfortable or not out of place generally at any time and talk to me about what they'd like to talk about, whether it's in business or in life. So you need to create that. It doesn't just happen because you say we have an open door policy. You need to create that culture in your culture and make it cultural. So you need to have that. You need to walk what they call the four corners. Walk around your workplaces. It doesn't have to be the office you're in, but when you go to a site office or another strike office, walk the corners, meet the employees, make yourself visible and available. Those types of things. In addition, you have to, take the field trips. Go the extra mile and get out there. It's easy to stay in your home base and hunker down in your home office, but get out there and visit. Like in our case, we've got 25 offices around Western Canada. So I have to be intentional and deliberate about making a road trip and going around and talking to people and making myself available to them. And then finally, I guess when there's meetings, when assemblies of employees, those assemblies could be safety meetings or employee meetings or town halls, or I have a quarterly executive message I have people call into. But you need to do those things, and you need to make those things happen. So there's a lot of work around, reaching out and being available and for people. So it doesn't just happen because you say it's because you say it. You have to make it happen, and it's work to it.
That's something that I'm hearing very clearly is that, again, anyone can say, I've got an open door policy. But when somebody is a picture on the website as the leadership team, if that's all they're seeing from you, there's always going to be that natural distance of like, hey, Steven's way up there. I'm in wherever I am, mid-management, I'm a new employee, wherever I am. There's no way I can waste his time with my comment or concern. Having said that, if you are, like you said, walking all four corners, when you're making the appearances, when you're actually engaging with people and they can see you and say, hey, I know that Stephen is available because I've already spoken with him a couple of times and he's been a good guy to speak with. I know that I can bring something up to him. That's a completely different story when it comes to availability.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Let's go to the next one. So reach, the next one was preach. So sharing the vision, you talked about this probably coming out in those quarterly updates that you have as well. But what comes to being a visionary and sharing that vision with your staff?
Well, I think it's important just to start off with. I'm just going to go back a little bit around visioning. I think as a leader, and certainly as a CEO, you need to create a vision, and you need to think about that or have the vision before you start your leadership journey, and create this vision that you believe in, and then share that vision and try and get buy-in or support to that vision. So that's very, very, very important, is to have a vision and then to be able to share that. Now, what follows on to that is building the strategy to get to that, building the plan or the strategy to get there. And that's where you need to be really collaborative. You need, all hands on deck in many cases to put a plan and strategy together to create the vision. And you need to rely on your people. If you think you're going to create the plan and the strategy all by yourself to hit your vision, it doesn't become our vision. It doesn't become the company vision. It becomes your vision. So you need to be, quite collaborative when you're putting strategy in the business plan together to support that vision. And then finally, it needs to be cultural. And what I mean by that is you need to create the culture where people feel they can provide input, think like entrepreneurs, share their ideas, and be part of what we're building, and create some ownership from your employees. Even though they may not be shareholders, all of them, they still have an opinion, and they still have a vested interest in the company. So it's kind of a three-pronged approach to this preaching. And then to bundle it all together, you need to go out and share and talk to people about this, and create the mediums to be able to deliver. And I get accused sometimes of oversharing, if there's ever such a thing. Now, I don't believe in oversharing information on the company. And some people are of the opinion, well, you only should share what you think they need to know. Well, no, you don't. I think it's better that they have more information than less, and they understand where our decision making comes from, how we think, what's the long-term view, and those types of things. So I think about it a little differently. I do maybe overshare, and I get the chance to talk about where we're going, and I'll talk to anybody in the company about that. It doesn't matter if you're an executive or somebody else in another role in the company. So anyway, that's a little bit on the preaching side, but what's behind it?
Yeah, and as you're talking about this, you're talking about collaboration. You've used this word many, many times already in this interview, and this is my belief, and it's coming across clearly from what you're saying, that as we share and as we collaborate, when people believe they know what's going on, and when people believe they actually have a say in where the company can move and grow and develop and become stronger and more efficient, that's naturally going to bring in a strong culture. We when we're not invested in something, when we've got that distance, of course we're not as invested in the same way. But when people, number one, they have shares in it potentially in the business, and then secondly, somebody is sharing exactly what's going on, and then they can collaborate and they can share their own opinions, and they believe that their voice actually matters on some level. Imagine what would happen, I mean, on a government level, if people actually believed they had a voice. You look at like voter turnouts. And I don't know if you know what the numbers are, but my guess is that in an organization like Strike, the voting turnout would be huge because people say, I have a voice, and because I'm actually going to be heard. Is that accurate?
Well, that is accurate. But I always, to add on to that, Mark, I would just talk about consensus for a little bit, because it's very important. If you're going to run and lead your business by consensus, you probably won't go too far too fast, because you can't get consensus on everything. But you can have collaboration and input, and then make the best decision you can as leaders. And so you still have your employees providing input, feeling ownership, but you always can't wait for consensus. You have to sometimes move on it, get the general feeling, get the input. At least you're listening, and then make the decision and go.
It's a business, not a bunch of subcommittees, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense to me. All right, so that's talking about vision a little bit, and again, sharing that. Are there other ways that you share your vision? Again, you allow for collaboration. You've got these quarterly meetings that you run. What else do you do to help share your vision?
Well, what we have is uh, we used to call it the one-page plan, and it became such a big page. We had to break it into multiple pages based on the priorities of the company. And what we do is we have a lead and a small team that's supporting that piece of growth initiative or that strategy or business planning piece. And we've got 7 of them. So we've got 7 leads right now that report in on a quarterly basis to the broader planning committee and get input and test their recommendations to the group, and then we share that with all of management in the company, either at administration and management conferences, which we have annually. We share what's been produced by the broader planning committee, and then we send it out to electronically to our management teams. We've got 70 managers across the company, and they would all get to view it and see it, and they're open to sharing it with their people. So we do that a lot. We also have an internally generated newspaper. It's electronic and hard copy, and then we have our employee website. So we share a lot of information that way. And then I have an article every month or every quarter that I put out, and I'll pick certain things at different times. And so will other leaders in the company focus on different aspects of their portfolios and communicate on that. So we have a number of ways that we can share information.
You're consistently sharing information in multiple forms in multiple ways, so people can get it how they want it, and that they can have their questions answered, so that it's in a consistent way, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Good. Let's go to teaching. Now, I think you talked a little bit about mentoring here, but go to teaching for a little bit. How do you, as a leader, teach well?
Well, I'll start with around teaching. I'd like to just make note that we have a management training program, and there's 12 people to 15 people in that at any given time. It's a 2-year program. And you're assigned to a business unit manager, and then you're assigned an executive mentor or coach that is there to help and shepherd you and to guide you along in the process. The intent is to have these people become managers someday, ultimately a supervisor, then a manager, and we've got 3 vice presidents who've been through the whole program. And are now executive level people in the organization. So that's our school, internal school. But we have probably 20 different courses and programs we put on for hourly and salary people in the company at different times of the year. We've got a training coordinator and an HSE department and an Indigenous and community department that delivers different programs to our people. But irregardless of, outside of that, just mentoring in general, I mean, we emphasize and focus on mentoring. Everybody should be trying to help some people in the company, some others in the company to become better employees, better managers, or to help them with their career path. So we have our performance review process where you can outline your aspirations and the next steps for you, and your direct supervisor is to coach you and work with you on that. But then, a number of us on the executive level keep an eye on those people and make sure that we help those that want to become something else in the company, whether it's a supervisor, manager, an executive, or whatever. We need to help coach that, and we openly talk about mentoring and who you're mentoring, how you're coaching, and things like that. So it's very, very important to our people and to our success. Now, the other thing, when we come to succession planning, we try to promote from within. That's not to say we haven't hired from the outside. But our first choice or position A is to hire from within, get somebody ready, promote them, and then move them into the next level. And we've been tremendously successful at that. And that's our preferred way to coach and mentor people, and move and grow the organization. The other thing, we don't grow beyond what we can manage. So again, you're kind of dictated by, the people you have, the resources you have, and how much they can take on. So that's some guidance for us as coaches and mentors. Let's not grow beyond our means. Now we've got lots of opportunity to grow and say yes, but we just can't take on that and jeopardize performance and jeopardize the careers of people, because sometimes if you get somebody loaded up beyond their capabilities, you're just setting them up for failure, and a failure can cause you to change course or rethink your life or whatever.
How do we grow?
Could make you better too.
Right. So the question I'm hearing is, how do we grow according to our vision within the framework that allows us to do exactly what we do so well, rather than growth for growth's sake?
Well, yeah, we talk about that often. We're not growing for growth's sake. And our method of growth has been organic, number one. So let's identify an area. Let's identify the team that's going to go open up a new business unit or a new department. And let's manage that. Let's get that under our belt next year. And then the following year, we'll look at another growth initiative. We try to take on one growth initiative per year, whether it's organic or acquisitory. And, we made a half a dozen acquisitions over our lifetime of decent sized companies and well-run companies. But we've done a lot of work on the organic side, and grow when our people are ready, or when we can find the right people to put on the team. Then we'll make a growth step. And we've done two in the last couple of years, Saskatoon and Cranbrook, for example. Those were both all internal promotions and internal resources used to open up those two new business units.
Going back to mentorship just for a second here, you talked about performance reviews and how people can share where they want to be, whether it's within the company, outside of the company, and you're helping them meet their goals. My guess is that there's going to be some hesitation for people going through that the first couple of times. Like, am I really sharing my goals are outside of this company, or something that doesn't align with maybe what my manager thinks? How do you overcome that?
Well, I think number one, I think it has to be cultural, that you have a trusting culture, trusting management, and that they're there to help you be a better person and help you have a better life. Like, that's my goal, is to help people have a better life. It doesn't necessarily be a better employee here, just better in your life. And there's lots of ways to do that. But, I think people have become more and more comfortable in being open and honest in their employee reviews, in their aspirational goals. I read every aspirational goal that our employees care to share, and every year. And so I know where people want to go before I see them on a road trip or see them somewhere. I know what their aspiration is. So I can talk to them about that, and how they think it's going, and do you still feel that way? So I think you need to make people feel comfortable. Number one in your mind is having the aspiration, or having the challenge or thought in your mind. Number two is sharing it, and we need to share that. And I encourage people that it's great to have these thoughts, but get it on the table. And that's the second step, is to share it and get it out there. Let people know what you're thinking and what you want to do. And then the third piece of that whole thing is putting the rubber on the road. How do you put that? What's your first step and second and third to get there? So number one is the thought. Number two is sharing it. Number three is the action required. And that once you create that kind of a little cycle and comfort level with people, they'll open up and they'll share and be more comfortable. I think you're absolutely right. In the early days of performance appraisals, sometimes things didn't get noticed or followed up on, or who's really reading this stuff, and all of that. But our company's has come around. I guess almost not full circle, I was going to say, but has really taken employee feedback. We do annual surveys to employees, for example, and there's pages of ideas in there that we should start doing, stop doing, and continue doing as part of that survey. We read, and I say we as the leadership and executive team, read every single one of them. and we act on a number of them. So there's and people know that they know that if, that we take a lot of ideas out of these engagement surveys, we call it annual engagement survey, and put them in place. And I when I deliver my quarterly address to employees, there might be 100 or 150 come on to the webcast or whatever it is. It's an online interactive delivery. I make a point of sharing that here's some of the things that we've taken from our employees' feedback, and put them in place. So they know we listen, and we don't act on everything. Like I said before, it's not a consensus type thing, but we'll take a lot of ideas from our people.
How do you handle situations where somebody, maybe their aspiration is to be CEO or executive management in the company, and this person, this is not where their strengths are? How do you handle conversations like that, or helping them, mentoring them?
Well, that's a great question. I probably have two or three candidates internally that would aspire to be the CEO. Now they've got great skill sets in where they are right now, and we talk about that. And I guess my conversation is, maybe don't lose the aspiration, but look at all your strengths. And here's some things that you would really have to work on if you want to be a serious candidate for the CEO position. So you don't want to just knock people off and say, no, you don't have what it takes. Here's the areas that you need to really strengthen up on and work on if you want to have be a full-fledged CEO leading a $500 million company with 1,400 employees. That's the kind of things you need to work on. In addition to keep your strengths, keep what got you here, and so it's not an easy conversation at times, but you don't want to demotivate anybody. You never know. There's horses in the races that sometimes you just don't see coming to the top, and they work on it and they work hard at it. And you never can underestimate the power of hard work in leadership. Now, people often don't bring up what do you have to have? Well, you got to work hard. You got to, really work hard. It's not easy to get to a certain type of job you might aspire to be, like a CEO. It's not an easy route. And so don't underestimate the power of hard work too. That's one thing I like to share the odd time with leadership and CEO agendas is that's the most underrated piece right there.
My guess is that you have so much training already and teaching that comes with management or at various levels of the organization. My guess is that might help somebody understand where their strengths and weaknesses are as well as they go through that training, or as they go through some experience over 2 years. You're saying they're most likely going to get some feedback of like, okay, this is where you're really strong, and this is probably not where you're very strong.
Absolutely. That training program sometimes is 2 years, others take 5. But through that program, you can help guide or stream a person to their skill sets. You'd make a great estimator. I mean, you have a good concept for construction products. You pay attention to the detail which you need in estimating. And we've had people stream over there as opposed to going into operations management, for example. And so, yeah, you can help guide somebody into the right type of construction too. Like certain big projects may not be for everybody, but could be maintenance and smaller project work or electrical, and you stream that way. So you find out about yourself, and your aspiration can change as you go through some of the training programs, or even just some of the coaching and mentoring with your supervisors and leadership team. It can help guide and direct you. I've had several of those over the years. People in HR that I felt, would make a great accountants for a great accountant, and she stepped over into accounting and is now our accounting manager. And she's suited for accounting, wasn't suited for HR best, and two different types of personalities, two different types of people, really. And so we've had, that's just one example that came to mind, but we've had that over the past of streaming people properly and helping guide them to a more successful career.
The way that this plays out in my head, Stephen, is that when you have Stephen, the leader of 10 people, that's really easy because you're on the ground. You know everyone. You're intimately involved in their lives in different ways. How do you build a higher performing organization when you got 1,400 employees now, and you need people who are going to be able to see that in somebody and say, you know what? I see something else in you. Let's try this, and allow somebody to find their sweet spot or their area of genius, if I can say that.
Oh, geez, that's a great question. And it brings a few things to mind, like delegation. You have to be comfortable delegating authority and decision making to the next level, whether it's 4 reports or 10 reports reporting to you. But if you're going to build and scale an organization, you can't scale without delegating and trusting your people. The second thing is you need to be a really good gatekeeper. If you're going to let someone into leadership roles, management roles, executive roles, you need to be a good gatekeeper. And what I mean by that is don't over promote somebody into a spot they're not ready for. Don't bring someone in from the outside if you go that route, unless you do a lot of diligence work on do they fit. Be good gatekeepers. It's harder to unwind. So if you're going to scale and build the business up to 1,400 employees, you better have good people under you and promote the best people. You know, like the Attila the Hun is promote the top Huns to the top roles. It's as ancient as ever. But, put good people in place. And I guess a kind of a word of warning would be, if you find people in your organization that have hidden agendas or different agendas than where the company and the CEO need to go and want to go, you're going to have to deal with that. I call it red box them. It doesn't mean you fire them, but you got to have a discussion with them that either put them somewhere else, terminate, or whatever. You got it's a red box, and it's going to collapse the organization, or it's going to slow the org down. So you can't have people with hidden agendas. You have one agenda. You all may not agree when you put that agenda together for the company, but when you walk out of it and you have a plan, everybody's on board. So you got to make sure you're clear of those types of people. And the other thing I found over my 42, 43 years in this construction business is when you get I-type people, arrogant, it's all about them. They take the credibility. They don't take the responsibility, and it's all about them. It's I this, I that. You can pick them out very, very easily. You know that by working with them, just in the way they conduct themselves and the way they speak. So, the I-type people are to be leery of, I guess I would call it. I wouldn't mean you cleanse them all, but you got to be careful.
That's a strong yellow to red flag there, right? So you talked about the I-type people. What are the other? How do you find those other individuals that have a hidden agenda? What are you looking for?
Well, you can find where decisions have been made organizationally that we're doing this and doing that, and somebody's out there, making decisions that aren't supporting that or going the opposite way, or they're talking openly that I don't agree with corporate and I don't agree with my vice president on this. We're going to do it this way. Stuff like that is poisonous to a culture and an organization. So you gotta, those are some ways that you can be spotting it, and
what do you typically? Because as you're talking, Stephen, I'm thinking, okay, you're talking about delegating and finding those other people within the organization that can see potential, that can pay attention to these yellow and red flags. What do you look for in individuals who can lead under you, but you can delegate those kind of tasks to, that are going to see the potential and are also going to see some flags as they come up?
Well, I try and find people that have an education, not for the sake of the degree, but that they can learn and build themselves, and have taken the ambition and the initiative to go and study and learn and accomplish getting that. So you want those types of people. You certainly want people that fit your cultural norms or your cultural parameters, I guess. So you want to do that test. The other thing, you want people, and you can tell who, the extra mile is never crowded. And I say that a fair bit. So you want people that'll go the extra mile. That doesn't mean you're going to work till midnight every night, but they'll go above and beyond to make sure the goal is achieved, or they'll follow up to make sure the goal is achieved, or they'll lead it and build a plan around it. So you want people that can go the extra mile, and those types of people. And so I look for that. You want people that are going to be, certainly, as we talked earlier, team focused and able to share and make people. Not everybody's going to be, a people person type, but they can still be great employees on the team. So you need to have some team attributes that are going to add to what we're doing and things like that. So, and you can't find clones all the time. No two are the same. So you forget that idea. You need all kinds of skill sets. You need a wicked large matrix of people in an organization to get it where you need to go. So you need to be mindful of that. You just can't find a clone like Johnny. Let's get a whole bunch of Johnnies. Well, you'll never achieve that. You can teach them certain things to be done a certain way or coach them, but everybody's going to have their own DNA and their own profile.
Perfect.
And we use profiling a lot. We use psychometrics a lot to help people get in the right box. But at any rate,
right people in right roles, right? That's constantly what's being taught and preached there. Good. Yeah. Now, you said be authentic, and Stephen, even in this interview, you're saying I don't hide things. I share whatever comes up. If people want to learn something, I'm happy to share that or help them understand what's going on in the company. What else goes into authenticity? Because again, there can be information that's shared. I've heard during COVID, lots of people shared information that didn't necessarily seem authentic. What for you specifically? How do you see authenticity and its place, and how do you actually practice real authenticity?
Well, I guess first of all, around authenticity, don't try and be someone you're not. You often hear people, I want to be like that leader, like our CEO. I'm going to be just like him. Well, you can't be just like him. Number one, so you need to be yourself. And what got you here is probably some great strengths around leadership and management. So use that. Be authentic. Don't try. People see through somebody who's trying to be somebody else. We've all seen it in different aspects of an organization. Someone trying to be like CEO John or VP Susan. Be yourself. And that's what got you here, and that's what the organization appreciates. The other piece that goes with authenticity, as far as I'm concerned, is vulnerability. And by that, you can't be perfect, and don't try and be perfect in every decision you make or every action you do. Don't be scared to make a mistake in front of people. Don't be scared to admit you made a mistake or you were wrong. So be vulnerable that way. Put yourself out there and just be you. And some people try and hide that. I'm not going to take that chance in front of everybody or in the meeting or in an assembly. I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm just going to do it the way the book says. But just be vulnerable. And people like that. They appreciate that. They gravitate to that. That's what gets a team to a top performing team is being vulnerable and making mistakes. And not being beat up for that. That's part of your culture. But being vulnerable goes right with authenticity. So you need to practice that. And number one, be yourself.
So in the spirit of vulnerability, I'm going to ask you a more personal question. That is, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made as a leader, and how have you corrected them? How have you grown through those?
Oh gosh, one of the biggest mistakes I made, is hiring some folks from the outside of the organization into very senior spots that in the end didn't work out for us, whether it was a leadership issue, a cultural issue, or performance issue. So, I've learned from that. If I had do-overs, I would probably had more caution in that and probably promoted from within. And so they didn't work out. So that's a big one that comes to my mind is for me.
So hiring from outside, or maybe taking more time to do that due diligence, if you increase that period. Again, I'm coming back to where you talk about this 2 to 5 year training. And in my mind, this is brilliant because it gives so much opportunity to see where somebody's strengths are. And again, instead of putting them into a position and then demoting them, which is way harder, than seeing as they are moving, saying, hey, listen, we're going to give you some training, we're going to invest in you. And as that happens, this is what we see in you. How about you try this? And putting people in the right spot. Is that accurate?
That's fairly accurate, and we can use the program that way, and we do use the program that way. A little bit more on the program. It has a number of areas where you need exposure hours, and whether it's estimating, corporate, sales, execution in the field, electrical, mechanical, fabrication, all of these areas. And you have to put, I don't know, 100 hours here and 100. And that's measured and monitored over a 2-year period, or it could be a 4-year period, as I noted. But that's where we see where the employee really gets enjoyment and can really excel, and where the best helps in the best fit, like you were noting. And so that whole program, in the way it's designed and developed, with the exposure you get, can help you and the employee and the company decide, what's best for you, and where do you get the most enjoyment, and things like that, and are the most effective.
It's interesting. I was interviewing somebody else from Australia a couple weeks ago, who does a lot of consulting work with large organizations, and that's something that she preaches all the time, is put people in unique situations and see how they handle it. And I can speak from my experience. I've had some really rough situations come from business partnerships, where I've had a partner, and as you know, when things are going well, everyone's on good terms. There's never a problem when things are going well. It's when things start falling apart that we start to see, oh, hold on a sec. Do I need to rethink this? How do we handle these situations? That's where the problems rise, right?
You can tell a lot about your team or your people when the road gets rough or the water gets choppy.
And when you have time to experience that with somebody, or to mentor them through that, we learn so much more about somebody too. This idea, this longer term training is really growing on me. I appreciate this, Stephen, because it's something I want to delve into. Maybe some other time I'll pick your brain on this as well. I've taken a ton of your time today, which I appreciate. Thank you. Is there anything that you'd like to say about Strike, or any kind of pitch that you want to throw out there that we can put your name or certain people or websites up on our show notes to help promote you guys a little bit?
Well, certainly our website is a great website to learn about Strike, what we do, not only what we do in services, but what we do in the community and what's important to the company. Our whole community and ESG sustainability side of the business is pretty strategic to Strike. It's not directly executing work in operations, but it's very strategic and important to our customers and ourselves to be good community members, whether that's the communities we live in, the Indigenous communities, and the other communities that we work around. So that's important. And the whole concept of ESG, we put an annual report out every year that outlines the full program for our environmental sustainability and HSE and community relations that I can't get into now. It's just way too comprehensive, but we have it, and it's available for folks online. But our website will give you a good flavor of Strike and what we're about. And the final thing I would say, the road to success is always under construction. So don't forget that. And so no matter what stage your business in, early stage, mature, or whatever it is, but you always have to look at it. You're under construction. You can always get better. You always look to improve. So I have that written right outside my office door here behind me, and just to remind me and anybody that visits me that, we're always looking to build stronger and better.
Again, growing or dying, right? As we talked about a little bit earlier. Okay, so I can verify your website's fantastic. I've spent a lot of time on there myself. I'm gonna pick out probably a few pages on your site that might help as people want to get to know Strike a little bit better. So Thank you for that. Stephen, thank you for your time. Your time is really precious, especially with people who are making a business grow. And I appreciate your time with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
As I'm wrapping up this episode of the podcast, just before I do that, what I'd like to encourage you to do is, if you are enjoying this, if this is something of value to you, I'd like you to go to whatever website you're on accessing these podcasts. If this is something that has value, we're doing this for free. This is not something that we're charging anyone for. We don't have a bunch of ads on the podcast or anything like that. Please go to, whether it's Apple or Spotify or YouTube or however you're getting your podcast, make sure you go there and give us a review. And you know what? Even if it's not a 5-star review, give us some feedback. How can we make this better? We are very open to creating a podcast that is extremely valuable to the people who are listening to it. A few things that jumped out to me. One was leading from the front or the back. He talked about, and again, Stephen is a very relational guy. He's a people person. So talking about leading from the front, he talked about being a visionary, being a people person, being entrepreneurial, easily building trust with people because they get to know him. He walks to all 4 corners of the business. He talked about making sure he had that true open door policy, about how he is vulnerable and authentic. And that's something that stuck out about that authenticity for me was that to be authentic, you need to understand yourself. You need to know who you are, and you need to be who you are in a consistent way, day in, day out. That is so important to what he was talking about. Another note was his reach, preach, teach ideas. I wrote down the questions as I was listening. Am I available to the people around me? Am I sharing the vision with everyone? Am I a mentor and teacher? And obviously, again, this goes to those leaders who are relational leaders, who are visionaries that are bringing people along with them and are inspirational for those around them. That's who this would appeal to most. 3 other ideas that really jumped out to me. One was that Stephen truly worked to learn about himself, learn what his strengths were, learn what his weaknesses were, and then surrounded himself with people that were a good fit. There's a phrase in psychology of like, know thyself. It's really important to know ourselves before we're giving anyone else advice, before we're helping anyone else. And I agree with that. And it sounds like Stephen is an expert at this, of knowing himself and then putting people around himself that makes everyone a little bit better. Second thing was red boxing. He talked about taking care of people who have different agendas and making sure that you catch those individuals quickly and then find a place for them that is out of the way or get rid of them. Make sure that you are cutting that out of your organization very, very, very quickly. The third thing, and this is an idea, I talked about this in the podcast or during the interview, that really struck me. That is this training that Strike does. To me, this training has value in so many ways, especially if it can take 2 to 5 years to go through the program. So 1, it trains people internally, which is great. Obviously, this is something that a lot of organizations do. 2, it creates a culture over time. Through training, we are always propagating the ideas of the business or the ideas of the management and leadership team. 3, it weeds out people that won't be fitting. And again, this is not a 2-week training period. This is a 2 to 5 year training program. Number 4, it shows weaknesses and strengths for better fits in the future. So if somebody is looking for a fit, it can help them understand where that fit might be. Number 5, not over promoting people. This is actually extremely important. And I think a lot of the time we look at what are somebody's weaknesses and how do we keep them away from their weaknesses? And more where I'm thinking is, what are people's strengths? If somebody's strength is not moving up the corporate ladder, then why would we put them in that place? Why would we put them in a place where they will start to show cracks, where they will start to feel stress, where they will start to not do their best work? Why don't we allow people to do their best work where they're wired to do that best work? Something, again, that I really appreciate. Before I leave, there are a few links that I'm putting in at the bottom. I'm going to include Stephen's LinkedIn profile, but I'm also going to include a couple of pages from his website. One is going to be Stephen's bio, and then I'm going to post just a couple of things on the website that he mentioned or that he alluded to that can give you a good idea of what Strike does, what they're all about, how they're going about their business. obviously have done an extremely good job of that. Thank you for listening. I always appreciate doing these and having people, whenever I look at the numbers and see that people are listening to the entire podcast, I go, okay, good. There are certain things going on. Again, I'm going to circle back to what I said at the start of this outro, and that is leave reviews. Reach out to us. Find easy ways to let us know how we're doing and how we can improve, and we will continue to do so. Enjoy your week.